Personal Touch in Peters Township is a show that highlights the efforts of wonderful people who are reaching out to help others through valuable organizations within our community and outside of it. Many of us are blessed and fortunate to have the time, the talents, and the means to provide a helping hand to others who find themselves in difficult situations. Today's show will highlight one special way in which people are working and volunteering to assist those in need through the South Hills Interfaith Movement, known as SHIM. Since 1968, SHIM, which was founded by a priest, a rabbi, and a minister, has been providing food, clothing, and services to people in need in Pittsburgh's southern suburban neighborhoods. Faced with unprecedented new levels of suburban poverty, SHIM is expanding its work to include more neighbors, helping more neighbors in need. Together with teams of dedicated volunteers, donors, and partners, the South Hills Interfaith Movement is working to reduce the devastating effects of suburban poverty among the working poor, unemployed, families, single parents, senior citizens, women, and the high concentration of refugee families in our service area. Today, there are churches throughout Peters Township and the South Hills that participate in SHIM programs, like the gardens where they grow produce for the SHIM pantry. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Jim Guffey, the Executive Director of SHIM, Rachel White, the Development and Communications Manager, and their illustrious volunteer, Andy Hayes. Welcome. It's nice to have all three of you here today so that we can learn more about SHIM and so our viewers can become more involved in this great organization. Let's start by learning a little bit more about SHIM. We'll start by hearing about what it does, its purpose, and its vision. So I guess that would we'll start with you, Jim, then. Can you tell us those things about SHIM?
Sure, Tony, and thanks for having us on your show. It's great to be here. I think when you think of SHIM, and it's a great introduction that you provided, as we've been here since 1968, here in the South Hills of Allegheny County, Northern Washington County, looking at what were the needs of the community. That need has been always the DNA that has flowed throughout SHIM during its 55, 60 plus years that we've been in existence. Today, when you think of SHIM, you're thinking of basic needs. Lots of folks realize and think of us as a food pantry, but we're much more than that. Dollar Energy screening sites, helping people with housing aspects, just informational referral as folks come upon hard times and they just don't know where to go. And SHIM is usually that first stop. But beyond that, it's more than just helping somebody and giving a handout. It's really about the hand up. And so at SHIM, we're really concentrating on getting people back on their feet and back to being self-sufficient. So when you look at programs as far as case management and financial assistance over a longer period of time, those are the programs that really make us excited. There is a growing niche in the South Hills, and that's of a foreign-born population. And so we have a lot of programs designed to deal with the special needs of those coming to us that may not be as familiar with the United States and how we do things. So working an awful lot with children to get them to be that bridge for the family to being much more self-sufficient. In the end, our vision is really a community here in the South Hills that is inclusive and where everyone will have the opportunity to thrive. So that's what keeps us juiced up every day, and that's what gets us excited.
And I noticed in the new addition that you have on your building, you've got the mission and your vision right there, so everybody knows when they walk in those doors what you're all about.
Absolutely, and I think that not only from the staff's perspective, from volunteers that like Andy that are phenomenal, and we couldn't do our work without the key ingredients of volunteers, to those who support us financially or just give us stuff. Folks love to give us stuff, whether it's food, whether it's clothing, and then a whole bunch of other stuff. So it's really rewarding, and it is there for folks to see so that they know why we're doing what we're doing.
So where is SHIM basically located? You know, so if people want to go to the food pantry or to pick up items or to have a meeting, with all of you. Where exactly are your facilities?
So we have two main facilities. Our Bethel Park location that you just mentioned has been recently renovated. Our largest food pantry is housed there. Most of our storage for the food pantry is there. Then we also have a family center located in Whitehall. And then we have a kind of a satellite food pantry at the Baldwin, a church in Baldwin. So trying to be accessible to the south, suburbs, but those are the main locations.
And Toni, I'll say, everyone here living in Peters and the surrounding communities, transportation is a challenge for us all. Yeah. The public transit systems are designed to be from here to Pittsburgh. Right. But what if I want to go from Peters to Bethel Park? And so what we try to do is to get as close to where we recognize there is a density of individuals that are in need of our services, knowing that they'll stand a greater opportunity to get to us. But at the end of the day, lots of folks, your introduction was very correct, and lots of congregations throughout the South Hills support us. So it may be the pastor or a church member putting someone in their car and bringing them to the nearest location to get that service. We'll try to do what we can to meet people where they're at. So
when we say South Hills, what are you considering the South Hills?
That's a great question that our board has defined. Basically, the way I've always looked at it, and I've been at SHIM for 17 years, is if you take the idea of the three rivers, anything south of the rivers is really, and the challenge with suburban poverty is the fact that there's not a lot of agencies like SHIM that are here in the community. So when you look at, does it make sense for someone from Scott Township to come to one of our facilities? It still may be the closest facility for them to find the resources that they need. So the key when we located in Bethel Park was the idea that we were a block off of the public transit for the T system. And worst case, if you were in Peters, you could go into Pittsburgh to get on the T to get back out to Bethel Park. So it's not the most easiest pathway, but at least it's a pathway. And so when you think of the South Hills, we usually look at it in that context. Some of our programs have restrictions by geography, some have restrictions by income, but we'll serve everybody. Nobody will leave us without at least, sometimes SHIM is not the best answer, but my staff are wonderful. They know where those answers may potentially lie, and will make a soft handoff and connection to another agency in hopes that they can serve better. The last thing we want is someone to drive clear to Bethel Park if there's an agency that could have helped them much closer to them.
So the clientele that you service, people in need economically, maybe socially also, maybe just through their ethnicity and their circumstances. How do they find out about SHIM?
In a lot of ways, it's word of mouth. They know of someone who was helped by us, and so that person was fortunate enough to share that information. Beyond that, we are tied. There is a wonderful social safety net here in the South Hills and throughout the local communities as a whole by the federal government, the state, county, various county governments. So there is a great network that will receive referrals from United Way, from pastors are certainly a source of referrals, school districts. School districts are aware of the families that may be struggling within their own district, and so they'll make referrals. So it is a wide spanning network, but folks find us from all over the place. And you're absolutely right, no one is going to be turned away, and it's a very broad spectrum of people that find us.
So obviously there are volunteers, as you said, that are a valuable asset to SHIM. And let's start with you, since you're here as a great volunteer, Andy. How did you find out about volunteering for SHIM?
I believe my faith brought me to SHIM. Jesus tells us 2 commandments: love God with all your heart and love your neighbor. And to love God with all your heart was easy for me because he loved me and gave me life. Love my neighbor's a little bit more difficult. I did a lot of, I always thought, I love my neighbors. I play golf with them every Saturday, so that's great. But I knew that I was missing something in my life. And so I asked my wife, if I found some place to volunteer, would you come along with me? And she's already a saint, so she said, sure. So, you know, we found ourselves at SHIM, and what I realized is who my neighbors are. My neighbors are refugees. My neighbors are people in need. My neighbors are families without, you know, food. And I also learned that we don't go to the inner city. We don't go to across the river. We're driving, my wife and I drive a van to deliver people who can't come to the pantry. We're driving in our own neighborhood. We're driving in Castle Shannon, we're driving to Mount Lebanon, we're driving to Bethel Park, we're driving to Upper St. Clair, Peters Township. These are our neighbors. So it's really expanded my view of who my neighbor is.
And do you train the volunteers when they come in to do specific jobs, or?
Yeah, so we rely on over 300 volunteers each year to do a variety of jobs. Most of the volunteer opportunities are like having a part-time job. Our volunteers are amazing at committing to a time and a shift. So they do everything from delivering food like Andy to driving our box truck to the Greater Pittsburgh Community Food Bank where we purchase our food. They stock our shelves. They work in our youth programs. So we have tutors and mentors. We have a senior call program where people can get paired with an isolated senior and talk once a week. So really we rely on volunteers as a huge part of our workforce, and we have a lot of different ways so people can kind of figure out what they want to give, how they want to give. If you love being around people, you can get involved in the food pantries. If you're, you're feeling more quiet and you want to do something at a desk, we have volunteers that work with us in the office. So really a variety of opportunities for volunteering.
And if people are interested in volunteering, how do they connect with SHIM? Are there a variety of ways, or how did you connect with SHIM?
Well, that's an interesting, because not having been a volunteer very much, I had a difficult time finding a place to volunteer, believe it or not. I didn't know where to look, but there was an article in the Almanac 8 years ago, and that led me to SHIM. You guys probably remember that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have a lot of information on our website too. So shimcares.org/volunteer. We have a list of the opportunities. We have some contact information, a little video where you can hear from Jim about what it's like to be involved with SHIM, and then a staff directory on our website too if you want to reach directly out to me or someone who's working in the program.
Toni, Andy's story is a little bit different in the context of usually when we have the opportunity to gather volunteers, I usually like to go around the room and how long have you been volunteering with us and how did you come to SHIM? And in Andy's case, what I usually hear from a lot of the male attendees is, I retired and my wife said I had to go find something to do and get out of the house. And so it's usually just one spouse that comes to us, but eventually it becomes a family affair where there's both of them coming and giving back to their community and what makes it special for them.
And we're blessed because we consider this a family affair. My oldest daughter is running a pantry drive at Lincoln Elementary right now for diapers, and my grandkids, they hold birthday parties and they do it with the idea that the gifts are going to go to SHIM. And they had a lemonade stand a couple weeks ago, and I just went up and said, what are you going to do with the money? It's going to SHIM. So it's a family affair for us.
That's wonderful. Definitely. So I want to pursue a little bit more of the SHIM Garden, if I can just do that. But we're going to be taking a commercial break here in a little bit. But so far, we know that there are lots of opportunities out there for people to get involved and to help other people. And so we appreciate that information. And as we said, you can just go to the website. And also, if you're a member of a faith community here in the South Hills, I'm sure your church may have some information that's available for the things that they do for SHIM as well. if we drive around the South Hills communities, we see some signs that say SHIM Garden, and also at your own facility in Bethel Park, there's a huge SHIM Garden. Why are these gardens in existence?
Sure. The SHIM Garden was the original garden that started this whole project, and it's been about probably 10, 14 years that we've been doing these community gardens. The real story behind the SHIM Garden is that we had a little bit of land there, and honestly, I was tired of cutting the grass. And so we secured funding that allowed us to start planting a garden. But the bigger picture idea is it's not only about giving people food that may be food insecure, it's about feeding them healthier. And the produce that is grown in all of these gardens, for the most part, come into our food pantries. About 15,000 pounds a year is grown locally, and that's a huge cost savings. We all know that fresh produce is a key staple in any diet, but it is an expensive proposition, and so it's sort of, we practice what we preach, a little self-sufficiency, and that's the context of why we do these gardens. The other flip side, and it's really one way that Andy got involved with us, is it's a great opportunity for those that have the land capacity, typically a church or a faith institution, is to get the bodies out of the pew and to get active and to use it as an opportunity to bring people together in fellowship. And so that's how one of the many tasks that Andy does for us.
Well, we started our SHIM Garden in 2018, and it was really an outreach of our Catholic Men's Fellowship group. And we had planned the garden and talked to Jim and Becky Henninger, a wonderful lady, and a great leader in the SHIM program. We basically decided we were going to open a SHIM Garden, but we didn't have a master gardener. We had no idea how to garden. I wouldn't have had a garden. And about 4 months later, one of our parishioners stepped forward, Karen Pritz, and became a master gardener for us. So we've grown. This year we delivered 2,954 pounds of produce to the SHIM organization, and our affiliated, we're at St. Catherine Labouré. We have two gardens, one at St. Louise and one at St. Joan of Arc's Church. And that was one of the largest gardens, and I still believe it is. So it brings people together in fellowship, and when we have our growth, our meetings, and our work parties. We call them work parties, but they're actually fun. And it's very rewarding when you go back and you're delivering food to the people that you see your own produce there.
Oh, that's a bonus for you.
The other thing that I'd like to say about it is we grow things that we would never eat, but the refugees are coming from different countries, and we grow bitter gourds and snake gourds, and they make curry with that. So we're growing things that for the clientele. That's
wonderful. And the other thing about the SHIM Garden, we have one at our church when they're first pulling out the weeds and getting the garden set before planting. It's true, it's a family affair. And it was so cool to see the little kids in the garden getting it ready and knowing that they're learning about helping and loving their neighbor at the same time. So the garden serves purposes on both sides of the coin, I believe. Let's just turn the direction of the conversation a little bit, because as an organization, I'm sure you depend on funds besides volunteers. And how is SHIM funded?
So SHIM is very blessed to have a wide range of funding sources. We rely on community members, so individuals make up about half of our revenue, or individual donations from individuals. We also rely on foundations. We have some contracts with Allegheny County Department of Human Services for some of our programs. Congregations provide financial support as well as volunteer base. And even community groups. So we rely on the community to do fundraising drives and think about helping their neighbors in a variety of ways. So it's great that it's a diverse source, and we're very, very lucky to live in an area where so many people think about helping. It's a very generous community, and so we're very grateful that people really step up to help, that if they have the means, they really take action.
So I know one of the programs you had this year was the backpacks that you provided to kids. And as individuals, if they want to donate to these types of causes individually, how do they go about doing that? Do they drive down to SHIM and give you a check, or well, I guess no more checks, but how do they do this?
Sure, yeah, there are a lot of different options. So it's always great if someone wants to drive to SHIM and drop off a check or mail a check. For the backpacks, we do look for school supply donations in July, and we hold distributions in August. We're always looking for seasonal clothing. So, right now it's getting cold, so we're looking for coats and winter accessories. Kids are always losing gloves, so those donations are really welcome. Food donations are always needed. So we purchase about 80% of the food we distribute from the Greater Pittsburgh Community Food Bank, but that other 20% is coming from community members. It's coming from food drives. We have, sports teams will do a food drive, or a school district, or a Boy Scout group. All of those really add up. Last year it was 187,000 pounds of food that came in donated. So that's a great way to get involved. Also, donating financially, you can donate on our website. You can donate via check. Very open to, lots of different ways for supporting our programs.
And when you get these funds individually and from groups, but do you have any special fundraisers during the year?
Sure, yeah. So we have one annual fundraiser. It's called Celebrate the South Hills with SHIM. It's really a great time to learn about SHIM if you don't know about SHIM. The last few years it's been at Cefalos in Carnegie. It's a small venue, and we really like to share the impact of people's generosity. So last year we had some students from our youth mentoring program come and talk about their experiences. Most of them, their families use the food pantry, but they're going to youth mentoring. They have big dreams. They're going off to college. So that's one event. We actually have an event coming up November 2nd, which is a new event for SHIM, a beer tasting event. So that's a different fundraiser. But the Celebrate the South Hills is our annual fundraiser.
Where's the event on November 2nd?
So November 2nd, it's at our renovated facility in Bethel Park. So if you're looking to get a firsthand look at the renovations, this is a great time. We're partnering with, it's called TRASH, Three Rivers Alliance of Home Brewing. I'm mixing up the acronym, but we have some great home brewers coming, some food trucks. We're really welcoming people in to find out what SHIM's all about while having a really great time.
Great. So people ought to put that on their calendar.
Yes,
then.
Definitely.
And so looking at SHIM as a whole, you have a great history. You're really involved right now in the present. Looking ahead strategically, do you have any future plans at all, Jim, for the organization?
I think, what has always been true is that DNA factor for SHIM. And so we'll always be responsive to what the needs in the community, because they've changed over the decades that we've been in existence. So always staying in touch at the local grassroots level, local communities, local municipalities, borough representatives, the various state representatives, to identify what are the leading trends. Sometimes bigger necessarily isn't always better, but it is certainly to say we will continue to respond to where there are needs. We know that there is going to be a continued diversity of the populations that are needed to come to the greater Pittsburgh area, and so we need to be astute on that. We know we are unfortunately in the aging community, and that's not going to change any in the near future. So what are those services? And who can we partner with, more importantly? SHIM is not the answer to everybody. We can't be. We just don't have the capacity. But there are other organizations that we can partner with to better serve the South Hills community. So it's all of that in a strategic way. Hopefully we've got one final renovation that we're looking to do on a facility for our family center. We're going to get that done here later this year, early part of 2025, and then we're going to be set in facilities. We like to stay nimble and flexible because we like to be responsive. And so that's the strategy that we'll deploy going forward.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the Whitehall facility and what is encompassed there?
Sure. Our Family Support Center is the main occupant of what is the services there. And so it's really working. Parents are the first teachers. And so it's really surrounding new parents, or in this case, just families. I mean, life is complicated. Life is complicated for everyone. It's even more profound if you're a foreign-born individual who might be new to this area and figuring things out. And so there are staff there. It may be parenting classes. It may be a father's group. It's our youth programs that are housed there, as far as after school, summer camps, our youth mentoring programs. So it's all of that in about 8,500 square feet of space. It's a food pantry. So it's a combination of everything. And it's how can we best meet the needs of that community along that Route 51 corridor. And then there's always the Bethel Center, which we've just renovated, and we're always looking to expand those services.
Great. And so is there anything else about SHIM that any of the three of you would like to share with the viewing audience?
I'd like to say a couple things. One is SHIM does love your neighbor excellent. I mean, they know how to do it, and they excel at it. I like to thank SHIM because SHIM has given me so much. I've gotten so much back from my time and volunteering. And finally, if you do donate to SHIM, I mean, you can see the results. All the clientele are treated with dignity, with love, and you can see it actually take effect.
Mm-hmm. It's great.
I would just say thank you. I mean, it's amazing to see the generosity of our volunteers, of the people who support the programs. You know, it takes a lot to serve so many people, and we couldn't do it without such great involvement from the South Hills community, from the people who volunteer, from the people who give. So just so thankful for everything people contribute to help SHIM.
Great.
And Toni, again, thanks for the opportunity to come in and share our story. We've shared an awful lot. I think the final piece that I would leave with folks is, if you know of someone that is in need, it may be yourself, it may be a family member, it may be a neighbor, a church member, whomever that person is, SHIM is a resource for you to make that referral, so that way we can help them get to wherever that better spot is. So if you know of someone in need, by all means, come out to our website. There's lots of resources there. We'd love to help, and we'll do the very best that we can.
SHIMcares.org.
Exactly.
Right. I want to thank you, Jim and Rachel and Andy, ever so much for sharing your perspectives about SHIM with our audience. It's incredible to know that so many of our residents from within the South Hills communities are willing to step up and put in so many hours to help those in need. You have demonstrated that a personal touch does exist in our area. Many of us are blessed and fortunate to have the time, the talents, and the means to provide a helping hand to others who find themselves in difficult situations. I would also like to thank Ryan Bonai, Kelsey Sylvester, Robin Hodgen-Frick, and the students here at Peters Township High School media classes for their help in putting together this program. If you or your business or your organization or your church would like to become involved in SHIM, please visit their website at www.shimcares.org and click on the Get Involved or Give Now drop-down menus. Thank you for viewing the show, and remember that you too can reach out and help somebody in Peters Township or in the South Hills area. It's all about that personal touch.